do bring this perspective from the biggest names in media on earth and also over at Newsweek. You've been encouraging me in my writing for Newsweek to really be all over this wholesale demolition of the American system. It sure seems to me that with things coming to a head in the Abrego Garcia case, the potential for an outright, blatant disregard,
Yep.
just sloughing off a federal court order, a Supreme Court order, making true the apocryphal statement from Andrew Jackson for John Marshall to go enforce his own ruling. That takes us to a place we've really never been. They're doing lots of things, the Harvard funding freeze and the tariffs. They're doing a lot of, oh, it's a shell game. Look over here. There's a disaster over here. Oh, the Doge stuff over here. Yeah, that's pretty terrible. They've been flooding the zone in order to try and cram a lot of things through at once. But to me, it is all bubbling up to this is not a drill anymore. We have really crossed some kind of a line. Are you seeing it the same way?
Oh yeah, and what I think is interesting is it wasn't going to necessarily be this, but this is where we were heading. The question was what was going to get to the Supreme Court first that they were going to then ignore, right? It turns out it's deporting people to El Salvador. That got to the court first. That has a court ruling. Now they're ignoring that, but there was going to be something, right? There was going to be a round of cuts that had happened, like foreign aid was cut, right? And now there was talk about having to have some of that stuff restored, whatever it was. It didn't matter really what the actual subject was. What mattered was the defiance was coming and that we were going to have to pick whether we wanted a constitution or a monarchy. And unfortunately, I think the time to pick was November. Where were you guys? I seem to remember trying to pull a lever somewhere, but apparently it wasn't connected to anything.
Yeah, you remember when after Brexit, John Oliver came on and said, "Good news. We get another chance to run this election next week." He's like, "No, we don't. I'm joking. We don't get a redo here." That gets to a point that you and I discussed offline, Jason, which is I wanted to write a little bit about the massive die off of shame that should be occurring among Republicans. And you said, Matt, that's a great idea for a topic. Too bad a bunch of other people have already had it on the Newsweek opinion page and are slamming it. But what are you seeing from kind of the opinion sphere that's showing up on the Newsweek page? Why are Republicans not dripping of shame? And why are they watching this happen?
I love this. The concept that shame still has relevancy in this culture. I'm trying to think back to a time when it did. Actually, 2 or more years ago, I wrote a column saying, why does shame have no impact left on people? But the Republicans would have to disagree to feel shame, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure who's left out there who really disagrees with what's going on. That's what's so interesting is to think that there are a couple of hundred representatives, and let's not even talk about senators, but just a couple of hundred representatives, more just slightly more than half, who are actually willing to sell democracy down the river and feel no shame about it.
Look, I spent a decade as a congressional staffer, and this was during the 2000s. I was alluding to this a moment ago. I was usually working for members of Congress in tough swing districts, right? So we did a lot of working with Republicans. And even though it was the George W. Bush era, we could still do that. There was still kind of a breed of Republican where at the
Mhm.
staff level and at the member of Congress level, behind closed doors, there was a lot we could get done. I passed some really good pieces of legislation on behalf of my bosses working with Republicans. So I had Jamie Raskin on the show a little ways back, and I said, "Look, are there any Republicans that you can like talk to? Do they get it? Kind of like behind closed doors, are they like eye rolling about all this?" And he said, "No, not really. They're gone." And so it goes to your point that in order for there to be when the tariff thing happened, there was at least this weak effort among Republicans to get behind a bill to yank back tariff authority. I had Chuck Schumer's right-hand man for policy on my show, Ryan McConaughey, a couple of times and a little ways back. And he said, I asked him about this. What's it going to take for Republicans to start doing something? And he said, look, if you want to fix their behavior inside the institution, you've
Mhm.
got to fix their incentives outside the institution. It seems to me that they believe that sticking with this is what their base wants. That's all they're beholden to, and that's driving their behavior.
But there's always more to it than that. You have to be the sort of person who wants power for its own sake, or at least to have a small office somewhere in a corner of one of the congressional office buildings. These, it's fascinating what people are willing to sell their souls for, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's nice to be one of the 435. I'm sure it's great to be part of the 535. All great, but is that really enough to sell out your country? A couple $100,000 and the ability to get the flag flown at half mast if someone you like died. Honestly, it just seems like you'd want more to actually sell out the entire United States and everything that it stood for 200 years, almost 250 now.
It does seem like there's something fundamentally sick that's gone on that's kind of grown in on itself on the right, and that Trump is playing to. And it is, it feels like we're all in kind of a mass delusion. Not all, but there is a mass delusion going on about this. And I just wrote this for you in Newsweek, that there's this kind of shared secret that Musk and Trump have.
Yeah.
This, I call it the glass onion principle, that they've created this. It's after the movie. Spoiler alert, people. If you haven't seen Glass Onion, first of all, you should. It's awesome. And second of all, it really hits on something I think fundamental going on, which is, if you are wealthy, Americans want to be rich so badly. They venerate wealth so much that they assume that wealth implies talent. And make no mistake, Musk and Trump both have some kind of talent. It's a talent for hyping
Hmm.
themselves and their own enterprises. It's fundamentally bullshit, but that is a talent. But it's not
Bullshit
the
is a
underlying.
talent.
Yeah, it's
It
something.
really is. No, honestly, what's more important? Yeah, I just in terms of success, your column was terrific. Really, no, I think you just captured it so well. Some of it goes back to the old saying, fake it till you make it, right? That's been around for a while, but it's more than that. It's so stellar how Musk, you go into something that I think is actually not everybody knows. You talk about how Musk was so concentrated on the idea of being the founder of things, founder of PayPal, for example, that when he was canned, he made sure that the legal language forevermore would refer to him as a founder. And he came in late to Tesla and made sure that he is a founder of Tesla, despite the fact that the guys who founded Tesla are long gone. I think that sort of need for authentication and anyway, your column, I just thought really hit it out of the park by showing how central this stuff is to these guys, the appearance of legitimacy, because just that appearance is what brings them everything they want.
Right. It gives them permission structure. It gives them runway to work with, to get away with outrageous things, because they
Hmm.
hang up a sign saying the genius is at work. And they're self-referential moments of, oh, Trump with his, I've got a great brain. What the hell that's, it's so meta. It's like, anyone who delivers a sentence like that clearly does not have a great brain. Boy, I'm really a downer today. I should have called today's
Yeah.
episode Stone Cold Bummer with Matt
Well,
Robison. I don't mean to
eh,
be. I'm seriously alarmed. Give
well,
me some good
can we
news.
just talk? Oh no, I
Is
refuse.
the Harvard
But
fight going to wake people up? Is Harvard fighting back going to start to lead to something? Or are you seeing something else that's okay? This is good. We're getting
uh,
somewhere.
so Harvard is actually such a wonderful case because they've got an endowment in the tens of billions of dollars. If anyone could fight back, you'd figure it would be them. They're the most revered institution and at the same time one of the most loathed. And I seen as the very center on the right of everything that's wrong with America. If it isn't Columbia, it's Harvard. And I think they'd rather target Harvard really if it came down to it. So it's going to be a matter. Actually, you know what this brings us right back to? Brings us right back to the question of what the Trump administration will do if and when they lose. I'm sorry, but it comes right back around to that because I, Harvard can have the best lawyers, they can have the most money, they can take it all the way to the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court says something that Trump doesn't like, honestly, if you boil it down, does it matter what the Supreme Court said? I'm sorry, you
That's a
asked me
great
for
question.
something cheerful. You asked me for something cheerful, and I'm
All
just
right. No,
having
no,
trouble
no.
with.
This is why I think that this is kind of the cliff's edge moment today is they've sort of been able to fudge it. They've even on something like barring the Associated Press from being part of the White House press pool. It's like such a process story, right? So they can get away with it. People aren't paying attention. Then a federal court orders them to knock it off and to let the AP in. And they didn't do it yesterday. But because they set the list of who's allowed into the room the night before, they could have, we didn't have a chance to do it. Yes.
Right,
But now, today, they did it again. They're in blatant defiance of a court order. And they're doing
right.
it in areas that are maybe a little bit gray. This order comes in from the federal judge overseeing the Abrego Garcia case.
Hmm?
And okay, give me a report on his whereabouts and your plans to repatriate him. They come back with a 49-word statement the next day. He is alive. And there's a little bit more to it. But
Yeah.
they don't really comply with the court order. And then there's this Kafka-esque catch-22 upside down press conference with the president of El Salvador, where he's in a quantum superposition of hell. He is unable to be returned, and we can't ask for him back. Therefore, he has
That's
been
right.
disappeared. Oh, mistakes were made, except maybe they
Yeah.
weren't. One part of the
Schrodinger's
administration is
prisoner, in
saying he
other
messed
words.
up. Yeah, the other isn't. And so this is why I think things really are coming to a head, because at some point, as much as Trump says, as he did after that press conference, I will follow, I respect the Supreme Court, I'll follow the Supreme Court. He either follows it or he doesn't. The quantum superposition has to collapse.
Right.
People are
And
saying in the chat, by the way, that they don't believe that Abrego Garcia is alive. I pray that isn't the case.
unfortunately, I don't know that we're going to find out anytime soon. Kelly's not going to tell you anything. Trump's not going to tell you anything. If it's bad news for Mr. Garcia, there's no way they're going to let that out right away. If good news means they might actually have to return him somehow, which they really don't want to do. I think your quantum superposition argument, I think that's where they want it to stay, right?
Right.
He's neither alive nor dead, as you say. I
And then
think
they get
that,
to just keep
yeah,
rolling things forward like rotating credit card debt of
yeah.
crisis, where it's, oh, our attention will be on to the next thing.
Well, but that's what they did in the first time around too, in Trump 1. We never really did quite catch our breath as the media. We were constantly one crisis behind. They didn't take things quite so far, but we also did a terrible job of cutting through the crap, and we focused on each singular event as it came up, as opposed to dealing with the systemic issues of governance. So I think what we're doing actually in this show is a little different. We
Hmm,
are actually, as opposed to talking about a deportation case or a case with Harvard or the law firms that are knuckling under to Trump at record rates.
right.
It's all of those things individually are important, but they're actually almost a distraction from the overall point, which is democracy being torn apart. Each individual step is important on that road and they should be noted. But I think it's very easy when you do that to focus on today's news and miss how it's really part of that big picture. And that this is actually every day another blow and another situation where it's hard to see how we go back.
Since I've
Sorry,
essentially
I'm
labeled
not
you
good
as
at
a
being undepressed.
since I've essentially labeled you as a personification of the media writ large, I'm gonna, which is really not a nice thing to say to someone, especially your boss. So I'm gonna, but I mean it as a compliment. Like I truly do. I want, let me throw this at you. And we had a comment here. Ah, Denise Rossler writes, Kristi Noem was allowed in the prison for a photo op. Why can't she
Mhm.
go back there with the Maryland senator and get him back? Denise, yes. What I would like is for your question to be asked of Kristi frickin' Noem and Donald
Yeah.
John Trump. And it felt like, talk about rotating credit card debt of crisis that gets our attention. This is right back to Steve Bannon. He says the quiet part out loud. He's Babe Ruth calling his shot, pointing to left field. It's like, here's what we're going to do: flood the zone so that you
Yep.
overwhelm the ability of the opposition, meaning like sane people, Democrats, and the media to do anything about it or to focus on any one piece of it. And you're making this holistic point. The whole enterprise is destroy the fabric of democracy, and each little piece of it is flooded at you so fast that you can't stop the individual pieces. It
Mhm.
felt to me like during the Signal Gate crisis, which feels like a lifetime ago, it was 2 weeks ago. It felt like the media was shaken out of its torpor. It felt like it was a sudden jab to the solar plexus of, whoa, wait, this is a scandal. We could, it's amazing. I forgot that we could do this. We can hold people to account. We can ask them impossible questions that they're going to stammer over. Do you see any signs that the media is going to ask Denise's question at any point or anything like it and start really holding this administration to some account?
I don't know that the media actually can at the moment. And what I mean by that is that people are really scared, and you're dealing with in the media the same stuff that you're dealing with everywhere else. When you think about again, the law firms, not much has happened to them. They capitulated. ABC News handed over $15 million when Trump won the election, not because they were going to lose a slander case in court, but because, here, take my $15 million and don't hurt me. This is happening all over the place. It's people shutting themselves down first. I don't particularly feel like writing right now. I got to tell you, I myself, brave enough to come on this show, and hopefully, I know it's being recorded, but hopefully nobody's listening. Anyway, but to say that,
Don't worry, you're not live. It's fine.
that's good.
Everyone
No,
in the comments, don't tell them.
right, quiet. But do you really want to get on that list? And then you start thinking, what is it that I have to lose? And everybody has something to lose. And if you are by any chance a middle aged person, which I would hardly pretend not to be at this point, you have children, you have college, you've got a house, and it's not that hard for them to start taking these things away. It's
Yeah,
chilling. Take
yeah.
a second to step back. They start auditing you. That's all they have to do. They can take your entire life apart.
All
Just
right.
the IRS. I'm
You know
just
what I'm
saying.
gonna do
So
here?
it's just a little chilling.
All right. I'm going to attempt an act of mental transubstantiation because
Okay.
you have me. I am so everything you're saying is really spot on. And I have to say the comments are coming in and very much echoing with the ABC News capitulation, right? That was scary. You have
Yeah.
Trump truthing. Oh my gosh, that's so terrible. Truthing on Sunday night. He apparently sits down to watch 60 Minutes and then, because they're critical of him, puts out a truth saying, I watched 60 Minutes last night. I'm enraged. I want the network's license revoked.
Right.
And you have the AP. Why is the AP in trouble? They won't knuckle under. You used to work for the AP and say it's the Gulf of America and
Yeah.
Mount Melania or whatever it is he's going to do next. No, they insist on the Gulf of
I like
Mexico
that,
because
from
that's the way the
Denali to
world.
Melania.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So
You're right. And I got to say,
it's
hold on. I just want to say,
yeah,
and for the Associated Press, for Reuters, these are two of the most brave institutions that I know. Very, very proud to have worked for both. They don't knuckle under when other organizations do. AP has this fantastically unique ownership structure. It's not owned by one person. It's not owned by a corporation. It's not a corporation. It's actually not owned by the markets. Think about that. AP is actually a collective, a cooperative of all the major newspapers in the entire country and beyond. And they are brave and doing great work. And I want to commend them and say, hey, look, they aren't knuckling under to anything. They aren't offering up $20 million to get their seat back on the plane. They're fighting it in court. They're doing what they can. I just think it's worth taking a second to say, you know what, the media, it's not a monolith.
And that's, I'm so glad you went there, because I promised some transubstantiation to try and take us from this pile of lead into at least a little bit of gold and something a little bit positive. And all right, I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to try and connect the dots over. One of the things, we did a video from my friend, my former Capitol Hill staff colleague, Ann Kim, here on the Cliff's Edge channel a couple of weeks ago. She's a contributing editor over at Washington Monthly. We did a video, 200,000 views to date, where she just laid out, look, here's how you can make your economic voice heard. Vote with your dollars. Reward and punish based on whether people are knuckling under. One thing that I think people can do is what you just laid out, which is go to the news sources that aren't knuckling under. Reward the entities that are fighting back and standing up for important principles that you care about. And you can do it economically, and you can do it with your earballs and your eyeballs. People, I'm not meaning to sprain a shoulder, patting myself and everyone else here on the back. This is egregious audience suck-uppery from me. But I think by participating in stuff like this and getting news from sources unafraid to just say what it is that's going on and pose the tough questions like Denise's, you're doing something positive by amplifying that kind of thing. And I would encourage you, Jason, to write, man. You've got to write. You're a great writer. You've got to keep saying the things that people need to read and use your platform. So that's one positive thing. And the other one is, I want to do a little bit of, I don't know if I'm like revealing something to you that I shouldn't, but I did a little Substack article. I can't just write for you.
No,
So
we wouldn't
I,
want
I did a Substack
Actually, we
article.
would really want it. We just can't afford it.
No, I appreciate that. I do.
We would love to have you exclusively. Trust me.
I did a Substack article. I'll actually put it in the chat right here, because I'm sure I won't be able to cover everything that I put in there. But my argument was, Republicans should be growing pretty darn nervous right now. Just look at the numbers, and I'll just quickly run through it. Trump's polling is sinking really fast, especially his rating on the economy. And critically, our friends over at Navigator Research, one of the best polling outfits out there, stratify things by Democrats, independents, and then they break out MAGA Republicans and non-MAGA Republicans, self-identified. Even among MAGA Republicans, he's going down. Now, he's still way above water with MAGA Republicans, but they're seeing the same drop there in public support that we're seeing across the board. GBAO, another polling outfit, finds that 14% of Trump's 2024 voters, people who voted for him 6 months ago, are, quote, soft and movable. Now, I say in there, that's not necessarily a description of their physical state. Maybe it is. I don't know. I think it's, are they movable? The economic indicators, the Michigan survey of consumer confidence. I've actually had the leader of that survey on my show before. She's fascinating, by the way. Consumer confidence, the lowest level since 1952. 1952. Republican Senate candidates are struggling to raise money. There was an internal Republican meeting, Axios reported on it, saying they're all kind of like biting their nails about this. Historically, presidents with job approval ratings below 50% their party loses 37 House seats on average. Now, that's a lot less likely to happen these days because there's so much gerrymandering and people are sorted geographically. But right now, we're seeing all this overperformance in special elections, and that augurs what's to come. And Republicans are internally kind of, I was going to say something more vile. They're sweating themselves because they know that Trump can make things much, much worse. So I guess my point is, to this long diatribe, this is my attempt to say, none of this is futile. None of this, like tuning in to other media sources and rewarding the media sources. Like, I have to say, Newsweek on the opinion page, you and I,
we're good,
people,
actually,
we
I
are
gotta
doing
say.
our part here.
Yeah.
Tuning in, paying attention, amplifying it. It is breaking through. People are getting the message about this. We have to keep it up. That was a long diatribe. I'll let you get it.
No, I think that's true. I think that the only thing that would mitigate against that is from Spinoza. I'm going to be really pretentious. I'm going to go to Spinoza, century-old philosopher, to say he points out the problem with electoral democracy is that people are free for one day every 4 years. All the other time, you're just governed. You have no say. You just have to watch it happen. And in our case, it's every 2 years. But it's absolutely make those times count. I don't know. Maybe we have to do more, though. Honestly, do we really want to wait? Can we wait?
No, we
Can we
have to
wait a
do more.
year and a half?
Any last thoughts? I read
Yeah.
off my blue linings playbook to you of here's the good stuff that I see. Are you feeling some silver linings?
I think actually, if there's one thing I would leave people with, and I guess it's not on the bright side, but it's not that dark. Just sort of the way I'm thinking about things right now is to try to not allow for a failure of imagination. That phrase that became
Mm,
so important after September 11th, 24 years ago. People, for some reason, all of the pieces were there of this plot to take planes and fly them into buildings. It was all there. FBI knew a lot of what was going on, but there was, and I think it's never been contradicted, just this failure of imagination to believe that someone would actually put all of these pieces together and do it, right? And because of that, or at least partially because of that, they were able to do it. Don't get caught with that same failure of imagination now. Take it to the worst. Think about what it could be. You might be able to help prevent it if you do. But if you can't imagine something that you're going to look back on in 2 years and say, wow, that was obvious. If only I put the pieces together, you can't guard against anything. Just don't expect the worst, but at least try to think what it could be and try to be on your guard against it. Don't just let it go by.
Jason, I think you have just live workshopped your next article for Newsweek on this show. You have to write this up that we can't let failure of imagination be our undoing. You should make the 9/11 metaphor and you should tie in all of the what was it? The system is flashing red. The system is flashing red.
Yeah,
That's what they found
yeah.
in the post 9/11 commission report. And that's what I think we're seeing right now. And it's little things like not letting the AP into the White House press pool. It's bigger things like snatching a Tufts University student who the State Department, Washington Post revealed the State Department had no evidence of anything
How
against her.
awful was that?
Absolutely awful.
There's just no words for that.
It's weaponizing the justice system to go after
Ugh.
Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor. It's
Yeah,
Eric Prince, Politico reported this. Eric Prince is pitching. You remember him, the former Blackwater CEO, pitching the White House right now on a plan to vastly expand deportations to El Salvador. There's the reporting from Rolling Stone that the White House is actively considering how do we do that? How do we start sending American citizens to gulags abroad? There's Trump watching 60 Minutes and openly saying, I want to revoke their license. There's sign after sign. And let's not look back a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, and say, we had a failure of imagination. We couldn't believe with all these signs that it would go so far. Let's believe that it would. All right, Jason Fields, I'm looking forward to you writing what you just said even better and more pointedly than my summary. People can find you. They will find you, your writing, and certainly your fingerprints on the work from all the rest of us at newsweek.com, opinion. Anything else to plug in there?
yeah. Actually, I've got one thing I just mentioned. We also I have a podcast. Oh my God, someone with a podcast? But yes, in fact, I've actually had a podcast for 10 years to just sort of show our age about conflicts all over the world. It's a real strong international focus. Some domestic stuff creeps in there because they can't help it. It's called Angry Planet. And I think you'll have to agree, it is an angry planet. I do it with Matthew Galt, who is brilliant, and you've probably seen all of his writing out there in the world. He does a lot of writing about tech and the intersection of tech and defense issues. Anyway, I just think it would be great if you guys came along and saw what you thought or heard what you thought.
It is up on the screen right now for everyone viewing us, angryplanetpod.com. We are going to get out of here. Jason Fields, thanks so much for being on. And
Oh,
everyone,
thank you.
we will see you next week.